This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks. With an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.
Well, hello, everybody. Hang on one quick second here. I don't know what happened to my background. There it is. Hello, everybody. BMR in the house. I'm glad to see y'all in the house. Kind of frazzled. I try to do these on Fridays, as y'all know. I didn't do one last Friday because this job I've got, I do a little consulting, and Friday nights they run kind of late. So I'm thinking about backing this show up to 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Friday, because I think after tonight the Blondes and Boos are backing their show up, so I don't want to run into them, of course. So they'll be on after this. So yeah, just make sure to alleviate any problems. Turn on the alert bells, everybody. The alert bell. Thank you. If you're new here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube, the Blondes and the Boos Paranormal Podcast found on YouTube, Texas Front Porch, Monica Rollins, Our Paranormal World, Donnie Cho Says Stuff, Paranormal Paul, Jay, and of course, PRT Josh over there. Check him out. Check out our conference. That's right. You guys all know it's happening September 19th and 20th. Awesome lineup. You guys know a lot about that already. Get your tickets today on Eventbrite. Everything is posted, of course, in the description of all our shows across the board. I appreciate each and every single one of you for coming on in. Hit that like button, of course. My books, of course, on Amazon, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Type in Bigfoot Michigan Rob on your Amazon browser. They'll both pull up. If you've bought them already, thank you so much for that. If not, well, hey, whenever you can, do me that if you would. Also, if you bought the book, leave a review. It's all analytics these days, all analytics, much like YouTube. If you leave a review for my book, for those who bought it, it does help promote the sales. The Super Chat's open, a great way to support what we all do around here. Thank you for that. You, too, can become a BMR pirate. Arr, mateys! Join the many, join the few, depending on your point of view. Thank you ever so much for that. Getting out with the show tonight, I got two for you tonight. I've got a really cool Bigfoot encounter in Montana, which I'm going to start with, and then a Dogman account from Kentucky. So two pretty cool accounts that I got that I'm going to share with you today. So yeah, kick back and enjoy your weekend. I hope you're having a great weekend. For all you mothers, well, I'll be on Saturday night, but for all you moms out there, in advance, happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. I've got my mom's present today. I got her a bouquet of roses. Yeah, she loves roses. I got it early this weekend because a lot of things are going on, and I found a great sale at my local nursery, so I couldn't pass that up. So I got her present a couple days early. So yeah, congratulations to all you moms. Okay. Once again, I want to thank you guys for being a supporter of this show. I'm going on 3 years doing this, and you guys help drive the show, whether you're in the chat room, whether you watch the replay, or whether you're listening live somewhere else and you do not participate in chat. Your support, I truly, truly am grateful for. Without you, I wouldn't do this show. And much like my other friends that have their YouTube podcasts, they would not either. So we all thank you for that. Thanks to Gary Spikes for posting the Eventbrite link. Pops is awesome, as you all well know. So I'm going to get started with these two for y'all really quickly. Hello, Andres. Hello, Win Clan Ken. Hey, you might be new. I don't know. Mickey G, of course. Denise. Keith from Michigan. Hi, Keith. How you doing? Nathan. Hi, Nathan. Thank you for that clip the other day. I got to share that out. That was pretty cool that you found. Thanks for that. Chris Driggins. Hi, welcome to the show. Hey, Val, as always. Thanks for coming in. 86. How you doing, 86? Let's see. A lot of the same people are chatting it up, although there's about getting close to 30 of you already in here. So if I miss you, tell me I don't love you. I'm just going to scroll down briefly before we get started. So most of the same people are chatting it up. Hello to everybody. Thanks for coming in. So I'm going to get started with this for you guys. And this first account, we're going to Montana. And we're going to the Flathead National Forest in Montana about this account that was sent in to me some time ago. And this guy, his name is Corey. And he goes on to say, Rob, I have a beautiful cabin situated on 25 acres of land. Corey tells me that he inherited this back in 2007 after his Uncle Ron passed away. He goes on to explain to me, Rob, I have a gorgeous view of the mountains, which is just at the foothills, I guess, of the Mission Mountain Range, okay, in Montana. I guess this guy's property is surrounded by the forest. I guess it's very beautiful, as y'all can imagine. Corey goes on to tell me that there's a variety of all the wildlife, the predators as well, cougar, black bear, amongst a few of them. Corey's saying in this email, Rob, I often wonder about grizzly bears. I'm definitely afraid of grizzly bears. But he was assured by his uncle, no worries. There weren't any grizzlies in this part of Montana. I guess he was kind of putting his nephew at ease, I guess. Then he goes on to say a lot of fauna, deer, elk, moose. You guys get the drift. And again, as I mentioned, this is also the uncle Ron. This was kind of like his cattle ranch because he raised cattle, and of course Corey, upon Uncle Ron passing, inherited all of this. And while Uncle Ron was alive, he introduced Corey to the First Nations of the Flathead Reservation, which are several miles from this property. And Corey was telling me that he believed that Uncle Ron wanted to feel assured that Corey had built up a strong relationship with these First Nations folks, right? As Corey eventually would become the owner of the property. He wanted him not to feel left or alone because I guess Corey was an only child, and his parents it passed on at an early age. So really, Corey was the only blood relative alive for his uncle, from his Uncle Ron. So he said, this one day will be yours. Uncle Ron, he also knew of Corey's love for Sasquatch, Bigfoot, this, that, and the other. And Corey says that the First Nations out there prefer them to use the term Sasquatch when referring to, as I quote, the Flathead would call them that. That was out of respect. Okay. So Corey goes on to tell me, and doing a little background on Corey. Corey says he got involved in Sasquatch research in the early 2000s. And this is when he actually had his first encounter was in the early 2000s. He was hunting with a friend in Montana. And actually, this also was about 50 miles west of his now inherited property in Flathead. He says it was a brief encounter, Rob, but it was one that he soon would never forget. He goes on to tell me that he was up in a tree stand when Corey heard heavy bipedal footfall coming from behind his tree stand, perched up as he was doing some hunting. He found it to be very strange. Not because of the bipedal, but the sound. It was very solid and a very heavy thumping, not made of a man. And the sounds continued to get very loud, louder and louder. Corey looked directly down from the tree stand. He saw a very large animal covered all in black hair. Corey's first thought was that this was some sort of bear at first. However, he knew that bears don't walk, at least they don't walk fluidly, right? And also this creature was extremely tall. And this is literally, he says to me, maybe 5 feet in front of the tree stand. So he says, as he's looking down at this creature, all of a sudden it stops. Now this Bigfoot, I guess, I'm guessing this is what this was. It looks up, and I guess the Bigfoot, you guys, it actually acted kind of surprised to see Corey. And the Bigfoot, it spun around, and in one full stride, it disappeared the same way that it came in. Hello, Tyler. How you doing, brother? Thanks for everybody for coming on in. So he goes on to say that Corey says, he goes, Rob, it looked kind of human-like. It really did from what he could glance at the facial features. So this started his love and his fascination with the Bigfoot phenomena. Moving forward a little bit now, shortly now, his Uncle Ron now eventually does pass away. And of course, Uncle Ron, as I said earlier, told Corey that he would be bequeathing, right, this property to him. It'd be his. I mean, they're the only two living relatives, right? So shortly after the passing of Uncle Ron, the natives, which was introduced, right, to Corey from the uncle, welcomed Corey to the land, and they had asked Corey what he had planned on doing with the cattle that was now left in his possession. This was set up kind of as a ranch, as I said earlier, but Corey really did not plan on keeping the animals. He didn't plan on being a rancher. He was going to take the property and make it his own. Now, I guess what Corey's Uncle Ron had been doing over the last several decades is he was supplying the First Nations reservation with his cattle. Okay. So Corey now, knowing that he's no longer going to be in this business with the First Nations people, he wanted to keep that bond and that friendship alive. So to show his appreciation for his new neighbors as a gesture, he offered the remaining animals that he had to affirm their friendship. So Corey says, Rob, I probably just could have sold them off to anybody and made a little profit. but he felt it was the right thing to do just to, as the gesture, just to give the remaining cattle to the tribe. So he says, Rob, I think I made the right decision, and frankly, I was really relieved, and I didn't want the responsibility of being a rancher. So they struck up an agreement that the remaining cattle would be depleted over a 2 or 3 month period to this Flathead tribe. And he says, Rob, really at this point, there was actually really only 4 cows and a steer left. And that was it. There's maybe 7 or 8 worthy animals remaining anyways. I guess, as he says, as Corey was saying, that as his uncle Ron's health started to diminish, he really stopped stocking the reservation. He also kind of figured that his nephew really wasn't going to be a rancher, so he just kind of stopped making the purchases and kind of started to delete the ranch of the cattle. So there's so now we're moving on. It's like a full month into Corey on this property, about a month after they strike up the deal to get rid of the cattle. And Corey, he wakes up early one morning and noticed that the steer, he says that there's 2 steer were gone, 2 of them. He found that to be odd. So he contacted the reservation and asked if they had already started the removal of the cattle, perhaps a little bit early, prior to their agreement, which he really didn't care, to be honest with you guys. But he just thought it was odd that if this is the case, that the First Nations people did not contact him prior. So, in speaking with an elder of the reservation, Corey was told that they had not been to his home, they had not been on the ranch, and they certainly would have contacted him if they had decided to start the process a little bit early. Hello, Miranda. Hello to everybody. The elder's name is John. Now, John did find it strange, so he decides to come up to Corey's property to take a look around. So I guess Elder John gets to Corey's property, and they both went to where the cattle was grazing, and Elder John took note of a few sets of footprints. And Elder John took out a tape measure, measured them off, and they were quite big, actually. One had measured right around 23 inches long, maybe around 6.5 inches wide. And there was 2 other sets, additional tracks, which were roughly right around the same measurement. So Elder John tells this young guy, Corey, hey, there are Sasquatch on your property or around your property. And he had suggested that they were the culprits behind snatching up some of the cattle. Now, of course, Corey, as I mentioned to you guys earlier, was big time into Sasquatch. He saw a Sasquatch from his tree stand some 7 years prior, started doing some research. So this Corey guy is really enthused, right? He's like, cool, he's got a research area right on his property. He says, I'm a lucky guy. This, that, and the other, right? So Elder John affirms to Corey, yeah, you've got Sasquatch. They're in the area. We know all about them. And he found it, but then Corey tells me he found it just a little odd because Elder John said that Corey was now a chosen one. Hey, Philip. Scotty, how you doing, Scotty? So yeah, Elder John mentions to Corey, now you're chosen. Corey really didn't know what he meant by this, right? So Elder John tells Corey that things would be different. He told Corey that he was there for a reason. And then he went on to say, everybody, which I found to be a little odd. He says that the verbal agreement that Corey struck up with the Flathead Reservation could not be honored out of respect for the Sasquatch. So, again, I'm not familiar with the Flathead. Apparently, that they know all about the Sasquatch, and they I don't want to say they worship the Sasquatch, but they know about them, they respect them, and now they've decided that the Sasquatch can now take the cattle instead of buying it or taking it, as Corey was not going to sell it. He was going to give it to them, said to leave it alone. Okay. Elder John even went on to say that he felt that the Sasquatch now held a claim to the cattle and that they were entitled, as this story was told to me. Okay. Said they were entitled because the passing of Elder Ron had a prior commitment, allegedly, with these Sasquatch. So now Corey's mind is blown, right? Corey can't process this. What do you mean my uncle had a deal with Sasquatch? So I can only imagine what this guy's thinking, right? I think all of us would wonder as well. So then he has all these thoughts. I guess my uncle knew about Sasquatch on the property. Then he asks this Elder John if he knew about this, and I guess this Elder John smiles and he says, "Yeah, I knew about this all along." Corey went on to say that, what does all of this mean? This, that, and the other. Why did my uncle not tell me about this? And the elder only replied, there are reasons for everything, and that the unspoken word has power. And I quote that from what the guy mailed into me. He goes on to assure Corey that his newfound friends will now protect and watch over him, just as they did for his uncle and the tribal community. Hi, John. Michelle, Will Fong, Barbara, how you doing? Paula, how you doing? Thanks for everybody, or thanks to everybody for coming in. So, okay, so this is, Corey is like, wow, he's trying to absorb all this, trying to process all this information. An alleged deal between his uncle and his Sasquatch, a side deal with the Flathead Reservation. So I can imagine, like anybody, this was mind-blowing, I guess. So over the course of the next 4 months, as y'all are probably guessing right now, all of the remaining cattle was taken off the property, not by the tribe, but assumingly by the Bigfoot. They were all gone, the same tracks and everything. And yeah, so the tribe of Sasquatch depleted the rest of the cattle. Again, they left their tracks on every visit, always the same size track. So this Corey says, sadly though, Rob, it kind of sucks, as he says to me. He says, man, after taking what the Sasquatch supposedly claimed for their own, they never came back. He never found another track. He ventured out into the woods, never found any evidence. So this guy was really kind of disappointed. And I guess I'd be disappointed too, eh? It's like Sasquatch used this guy and his uncle, right? I mean, I don't know. That's the impression I get. Now, however, about 2 years later, Corey says he hears a rustling of heavy walking in his yard. He says it was very early in the morning, and he says, I woke up about 5 o'clock in the morning. Again, this is like 2 years later. Then he says, all of a sudden, the walking stopped. He gets out of his bed, and he rushes outside onto his deck outside of his house. He goes, Rob, in my amazement, placed in a single file row, there were 6 cleanly polished skulls, which included 3 cows and 3 steer. Corey jumps off his deck, take a look around. He's looking for tracks now, like the experience that he had the 2 years prior. He says, Rob, not surprisingly, I found what I was looking for. Those same Sasquatch prints that he found the prior 2 years were all around his property. The same footprints that appeared on his property once again when his journey first started. What'd you guys think about that one? Hey, it was like, he felt, the Sasquatch clan of Sasquatch took all his cattle. This tribe knew about it. Apparently, his now deceased Uncle Ron knew about this. And I thought that was cool. Then there's nothing for 2 years. Nothing. This poor guy. I kind of felt bad for the guys. I'm reading this. And, I read this whenever it was some time ago. I said, wow, yeah, I felt like the guy got abused. However, like we hear a lot of times, the 6 skulls, the 3 cows, and the 3 steer skulls, I guess that was Sasquatch's thank you, I guess. They left him a gift of the skulls. I mean, if you put 2 and 2 together, right? Cows was taken, steer were taken, didn't hear from them. And then 2 years later, the cattle was returned in the form of 6 skulls. So I thought that was pretty cool. I really thought that was cool. Leave me your thoughts in the comments on that. I really not reading the chat. Hi, Moose McGrew, Pops, once again. All you guys for coming on in. There's about 55 of you here. Hello to everybody. If I missed you, appreciate y'all. If you're new, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube. So this next one I'm going to do for you guys is, well, it's a Dogman, right? And it's about a dimensional beast, right? As I'm reading through this, that I got this, and I find it to be fascinating. I find it to be creepy. And this takes place in Kentucky. And if Kentucky is a pretty creepy state when it comes to cryptids, my understanding, right? So I'm going to get on with this one. Don't forget the super chat's open. You can become a pirate. And please, more importantly, just hit the like button, subscribe to our channels. Thanks for everybody's contributions and support. So this dude's name is Georgie. Okay. Georgie goes on to tell me in the onset of this email, most of these, I pretty much memorized a lot of these guys. I have little notes and I try to recite them back. And this guy's name is Georgie. And he goes on to tell me that he was slumped down with his Winchester rifle. And he got this powerful new Vortex brand telescope. Now, for those of you that are hunters, BMR, I ain't no hunter. I don't hunt. I don't mind hunting. I just never did. My brother's the hunter in the family. I'm more of a fisherman type of guy, camping type of guy. So I guess this Vortex telescope is some badass telescope. So he's telling me, he says, Rob, I was honed in on my prey, as he tells me, right? He says it was just after sunrise in his favorite Kentucky hunting grounds. He goes on to tell me that he's been hunting these parts in Kentucky. He doesn't give me the exact location. He just mentions Kentucky, but he had been hunting there for the better part of his life. And Georgie goes on to say that he was brought up by his father, George. And so Georgie obviously is George Jr. But Georgie's dad, George Sr., always told his kid to never go into the woods by himself, whether he was hunting, hiking, or otherwise. So this Georgie goes on to tell me that this particular morning he was all alone. His usual suspects, as he says to me, were all off busy working with the family, this, that, and the other. So it was one of the very first times that he was all by himself hunting in the woods. And he says, yeah, Rob, I kind of defied what my dad told me all these years. He says, you know what? Never had a problem in all my years ever. I'm just going out by myself. As he goes on to tell me, he was very eager to try out this new vortex telescope that I guess he had mounted on top of his, what was it, Winchester rifle. Georgie told me that his dad always told him, he brought him up on the basics. Don't hunt alone. Told him about all the safety issues he had to deal with and how to prepare himself for anything that he came about in the forest, right, for survival. But Georgie Jr. says his dad kind of freaked him out a little bit because he always had made mention that in the part of the woods where these guys lived and where they hunted, the dad told his kid, you guys, that something odd and unusual lurked in this part of the woods. In fact, I think if I remember correctly, his dad said something lurked in the shadows that was not from this world. He goes on to tell his son that he would tell him tales about creatures that were not quite animal, however, not quite human either. He spoke of witchcraft and sorcery, things that the Lord above, okay, could not have possibly created. Georgie often thought his dad was just telling him tall tales, right? Just stories, right? He thought that his dad was just emphasizing the point to him about never going in the woods alone. So he's thinking his dad, you guys, is just trying to scare him to make him, heed what any father tells his son or daughter. That's my guess. So this Georgie goes on to tell me that he wishes now that he had taken his father's advice. Hi, Stephen Finnegan. I hope you have a great vacation there somewhere, wherever the hell you are. Stephen Finnegan, everybody. I know this because he's a Facebook friend of mine. He's in some off-world on a beautiful ocean. Hi, Steve. So anyway, yeah, he goes on to tell him. He goes on to say, Rob, I wish I would have taken my father's advice on this early morning day with this encounter, this experience I had as he goes on to tell me. I think he slips here, you guys, because he just tells me Kentucky, but now I remember he tells me Southern Kentucky, if that makes any difference. I think it does. So back in the very beginning of the story, when I started saying Georgie's laying out on his stomach with that vortex zooming in on his prey. His telescope is focused in. Then he says, Rob, I had to squint and rub my eyes a little bit to refocus his own personal vision. Because what he's looking at through this vortex telescope, he says, Rob, it had to be one of the largest black wolves that he's ever seen. Hello, Andrew. Georgie goes on to say that he typically spotted only red wolves in these parts. He says this wolf was big and it was black. He says he saw it rise from its side, and I guess the wolf was looking out toward the western horizon. He says, Rob, though, there was something not quite right about this animal as this Georgie guy goes on. He says, one thing, the size was just huge, huge. But he says the head, it was so big that it did not seem to match an already stout body. So he says at this point, he's not thinking anything really unusual because now he's really excited. Okay. I mean, he says he's excited because he's thinking, wow, what a trophy. If he can line this thing up and get off a shot, he's got one hell of a kill to mount on his wall or have, taxidermied or whatever. Then all of a sudden he says, Rob, as I'm peering through again his vortex, I wonder what this guy paid for his vortex. He was telling me that this thing was like, the most beautiful thing in the world, I guess. As my phone is ringing in the background, hope you guys can't hear that. Anyway, then he says this creature, this wolf, as he thinks this is just some huge black wolf, it turns its head. And he says, Rob, it appeared as though this wolf was peering directly into and through that vortex telescope, honing in on Georgie. And then he says he got the chills. He's like, this is like uncanny. He got that feeling that they had eye contact. Then he mentions the eyes. Rob, these eyes, they're bloodshot red. Rob, my body turned cold. I panic. He's thinking, can this creature, this wolf, can it really see me? Thanks, Gary. I just happened to see Gary. Vortex scopes are very expensive. Okay. Hello to everybody for coming in. I know I can't say hi to everybody when I'm doing these. I got to concentrate at the task at hand. Love y'all. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Thank you so much. So anyway, he's thinking this creature could see him. Okay. He goes, man, this is impossible. And he's thinking, no, this thing can't see me. And I guess he's like 400 yards away or something. I forget that part. But he's at quite a distance away, you guys. So now this George Jr., I guess, he starts, or whatever his name was. I forgot this kid's. Oh, this is the other guy. George Jr. I'm sorry. Georgie Jr. was in the first story. This is Corey. Sorry. See what I mean? So anyways, this Corey says that He goes, Rob, man, these strange thoughts start entering my mind. These strange images are now entering my mind. He goes, yeah, number one, I'm honed in on this wolf that is bigger than I've ever seen in my life and kind of odd looking. Now, at the same time, I think it's looking at me. And now, to make matters worse, these images are popping in my mind. Strange images, he goes on to say. He goes, man, I'm frazzled, right? Scared. Panic sets in. Still, he goes, Rob, whatever it was, I remain focused. I remain focused. But now he's got this disturbing vision in an image in his mind. And now this creature, this wolf, is starting to become a little more disturbing to him as well. He goes, what really got him riled up as he's peering through that vortex telescope, he's honing in on the head of this wolf. Rob, it seemed to smile a sinister grin at me, peering through the lens of my scope. He goes, Rob, it smiled. Sinister. First of all, how can that happen? He goes on to say, yeah, I know dogs can kind of, I guess, smile. You kind of think your dog smiles at you. But he goes, come on, this thing had a snout. And it seemed like it contorted that snout in a creepy grin with those bloodshot red eyes. I kept my focus through my scope, he says. I kept my focus. I don't know what it was about me, Rob, with all what's going on. I kept my focus. Then he goes on to tell me, because his dad taught him focus, right? I guess he says, if his dad says, once you lose focus when you're in trouble, you really will be in trouble. So he goes, now this creature kind of ambles around and starts walking towards Georgie. Now you got to remember, Georgie's maybe 400 yards away. He's got this beast honed in with the telescope on his Winchester rifle, and it's kind of doing its thing, ambling away. But now this thing stops. Well, first, as you all know from earlier in the story, it turned around and looks at him. And now this creature, instead of going the direction it's going, it now is ambling towards Georgie. Getting closer as he's looking at it through the telescope, the vortex telescope. And this thing is walking at him now. Then this creature stops, turns back around, starts going in the opposite direction. Georgie says that for whatever the reason, I probably should have, cut my losses and skedaddled out of there. He goes, Rob, I don't know if my mind was playing tricks on me. I don't know if I was just very enthusiastic at the same time being petrified at the same time. He goes, no. I proceed to follow. It's now not walking towards me. It's gone on this other path. Georgie now is following. He says this wolf-like creature, now he's starting to say things like wolf-like and being. He's throwing out different words as the story unfolds, because now he's not quite sure what he's looking at. He says the wolf didn't run. It was ambling on. But he says, Rob, this walk had purpose. He sensed from all his days of hunting that this creature, this wolf or whatever, it was walking with a purpose. It's almost like it was luring Georgie to follow. Georgie says he lost sight of the creature for a little bit. He lost sight of this wolf for just a little bit. He says, Rob, there was a strange grip in my conscious mind that begged me. It implored me to go on and on and keep on the hunt, keep on the follow. There was another part of him that was telling him, turn around, head back. He kind of told me, he goes, Rob, you ever see that the cartoons where you have the bad devil on your left shoulder, the angel on your right shoulder, and they're both in your mind? You know how they're trying to egg you on one way or the other. You guys saw those cartoons, right? That's what he's trying to describe to me, how his mind was going back and forth, flip-flopping, good versus evil, good versus evil. Georgie, of course, says, Rob, I took the devil. I made that. That's what he says. I'm like, okay. Corey, I'm sorry, Corey, I'm still thinking about the first one. Corey says that his mind kept telling him that he was being tricked now. But then he got this disturbing feeling. Hi, Walter. That now Corey, has now become the hunted. The roles he feels in his mind have been reversed. Rob, I'm not the hunter. I'm not the guy that's going to bag this big ass wolf to put on the mantle over my fireplace. I'm feeling now it's hunting me. It's tricking me into something. Yet I still follow. He goes, Rob, I'm making this wolf's job easy. He goes on, you guys. He tracks this thing with that vortex telescope that he's so in love with. He goes, he treks on for several more minutes, this, that, and the other. He loses sight of this wolf again. So now he decides that he's going to switch. Now his rifle, I guess his arms are getting weary now, everybody, because he's walking as he's tracking this creature, this wolf. He's looking through that'd be hard. I don't know how far this guy walked, right, you guys, or hiked, but imagine having a rifle in your arms, peering through a scope, trying to keep your bearings on what you're tracking, right? I got to tell you, I don't think I could do it. Not as long as this guy's been talking. So I guess he puts down his rifle, slings it over his shoulder, and pulls out his binoculars. And then he's trying to hone in with his binoculars. Hey, little Patty. Now he's honing in now, trying to reaffirm and find this thing again. Finally finds this thing through the binoculars. But now he says he's petrified. Because now, as he lost sight of this thing for several minutes or whatever it was from to stumble about and put the rifle on his shoulder, then he lost sight of it. Now, as he sees in binoculars, this thing has been advancing toward him during this entire time, and it's getting closer and closer to Corey, gaining ground. And now he says it's getting close, and now it slows down. It slows down. Rob, this wolf was purposely letting me follow it. And as he's watching through the binoculars, it would advance, it would stop, and it would peer through him and look at him as he says. He could feel it, see him. Again, that's unbelievable, Rob, but I could feel it sensed me. Corey says, I would advance, and when I advanced forward, the wolf would advance forward, like we're on a head-to-head collision. When I stopped, the wolf stopped. He goes, Rob, this one last time, as I'm getting closer, The wolf turned around. His rear end is facing Georgie, and he thinks now it's like drifting away and going to take off. Then, for one last moment, he says, the wolf turns around, looked at him, and once again, with that sinister grin, smiles at Georgie, or it's Corey. I still can't get Georgie off my mind. Georgie from the Montana story earlier. Sorry, you guys. You know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, looks into Corey with that crazy grin again. And now this Corey, he's ready to get the hell out of here at this point, but he still can't move. He says, now I'm getting paralyzed. His mind was taken over by something that he can't explain, he says. He goes, Rob, this is no longer a wolf in my mind. This is some sort of otherworldly being that is stalking me. He goes, it's not a wolf. I'm petrified. Then he goes on to say it felt like it was something from a different dimension, a different realm. And Corey himself says, at this point, I don't even know where I am. Am I lost in a different plane, right? His mind is distorted. He says he starts getting cold. He starts sweating a cold sweat. He's terrified. Rob, he tells me, I knew my certain and imminent death approached. I felt the dread. I felt my life was ending that day. Rob, this creature is now 50 yards in front of him. He's looking through the binoculars. He fumbles to get his rifle because now he says, I have to shoot. He can't get to his rifle. And then what he saw, of all the things that had happened, this guy, this is the thing that blew his mind the most. Again, the terrifying grin, as I've said a couple times, it showed that grin to this guy, Corey. Then it stands up on two legs, towering from the ground up. It was walking before on four legs at a nice pace. Rob, it's on two legs, and it starts running toward me. Eyes ablaze with fire, as I remember him telling me. Those blood red shot eyes. It's getting closer and closer. He can't turn. He can't run. Rob, thoughts of my wife and children enter my head, right? He started praying to God. All of a sudden, the creature stopped, dead in his tracks. The sinister grin became more terrifying. Then it lets out this loud cry or howl. Loudest he ever heard. Rob, the howl wasn't natural, and it was not a wolf. Again, nothing from this world. It dropped down from its standing position bipedally back on all fours. It gave Georgie that familiar, famous, sinister grin. It spun around, and in a flash, the creature was gone. To this day, he goes on to tell me, I do not know what it is I experienced. And he said, I remember what my dad told me. This is Georgie and George. Jeez, oh, Pete. I'm sorry. I screwed up the names. When you try to remember the names, you guys get it. I'm sorry. I just caught myself. Ugh. Anyways, Rob, remember my dad was telling me something dark lurks in the woods, and I always thought he was full of crap, he says. And I believe what my dad was telling me to be the truth. I don't believe he was telling me those tall tales. His only thought was he wonders if his dad experienced what he had experienced. And that was kind of odd because I don't know if his dad is alive or not, but it seems like they would have talked about it, right? That I don't know. All I know, that was pretty creepy. This Georgia, I give him a lot of credit. What was this guy Georgia, you guys? Okay, I'm gonna ask you guys. Just leave a comment or whatever. Why the guy was petrified? The guy knows that he it's not a real wolf, it's something else. Yet what kept this guy compelled, you guys, to track this thing? Not me, sir. I'm turning around, I'm going the opposite direction. Was this a dimensional being? Did this thing have the power to seduce him into maybe this creature? I don't think this creature wanted him, though, you guys, because he could have had him anytime he wanted. I often hear about Dogman. We've heard about the other stories about Dogman, perhaps, doing nefarious things to people, offing people. We've heard the stories of the LBL ad nauseum. But a lot of the ones I get, you guys, it just seems like the Dogman or these creatures or these beings, these entities, they just want to scare the hell out of you. And that's it. I think they want us to know that they're the predator. They reign superior over us, right? And I've heard of other dogmen, they're kind of that don't mess with people at all. Pops is in the house, he can tell you that. But I don't know. A lot of the ones I get, they want to scare the hell out of you, grin at you, because that's not the first time I heard about the grin in a takeoff. We've heard about the stories about the dog man lapping a car, looking in the window, right? Grinning. I've had many stories like that have been given to me. But this Georgie guy, I think he was possessed. Why in the hell would you continue on knowing that you're probably going to die, which thankfully he wasn't, but why, what possesses a person to do that? So I think that there was some sort of mind control playing some, taking place here. I mean, that's my personal opinion. I mean, I could be all wet. I could be wrong. Andrew says, curiosity and infrasound. Yeah. If they want you, nothing will stop them. Yeah, of course. Keith, yeah, if they want you, they can get you, which I believe 100% with that. Tammy, is that Tammy? Hi, Tammy. I heard that Dogman can cover a distance in a matter of seconds. I've heard that. Dogman, seek fear, truth. Of course, John, right, John. Creatures playing games with us. Yeah. Curiosity by Barb. There has to be a psychic component. What I can tell from all reports, says Nathan. Nathan, thanks for that breakdown. Nathan, in my show yesterday, he sent me an email message. So I did a show of Varla Ventura yesterday, and I know most of you didn't watch it only because it was about gardening and mysterious plants, which I love gardening. So I say, what the hell? Varla's a friend of mine. But there was some creepy stuff in that show for those of you that want to check it out. Hey, check it out and give me the view anyway. Watch it for 20 seconds. But I love this show. I was into it. It was a cool show. But during this show, Nathan pointed out to me and showed me on a replay on the video that we don't here. I really don't really know what it was, but it appeared to be, I think it looked like a snowflake orb that in Varla's background skidded right across in her background, and you can distinctly see it. It almost looked like a light, perhaps, but Varla has no kids. There was no one in her house. And Varla is into paranormal, and she is allegedly a witch. But it's not the first time this has happened. The Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast, in both Krista and Brandy's house, we've seen orbs and weird things in their backgrounds of their houses. So I'm just wondering if maybe that was something associated with that. Go check it out. I mean, it's not a creepy show at all, but it's my show. Give me a like on it. Who else? Joe Stewart, how you doing? How fast can a Dogman run? I don't know. I heard 50 mile an hour. Walter. Hi, Walter. Miranda. Thanks to everybody for coming on in. Mickey. Hi, Mickey. Thanks to all you guys for coming in. This is a great show. I get in late on Friday. Well, late for me, and it's hard to put the show together. I've been doing these at 6 or 6:30. Couldn't do one last week. Since the Blondes and Booze are backing their show up an hour, I might start these at 7 o'clock on Fridays. I know that'll give me enough time. Make sure your alert bells are on. And don't forget, I'm on Tuesday night at 9 with Krista. We always have guests on Tuesday. Thursday afternoon, it's going to be me. Right now, I'm flying solo because Tex has got different work hours. So I'll either have a guest on with me. Sometimes Brent Thomas will be with me. And I think occasionally Duke will be joining me from Bigfoot Radio. And then Friday is this show. And then Saturday night, me, the Blondes and the Booze, and Monica with our bizarre late night Saturdays at 11. Tuesday at 9, Thursday at 1, Friday, let's call it 6 to 7. Not a confirmed time. Saturday at 11. Thank you to everybody for coming on in. I hope you enjoyed the show. It's good to be back after having a week off, telling a couple, encounters for you guys. Check out the Blondes and Booze. They'll be on, I think, in about 20 minutes or so. I think they're on, at the top of the hour. Check them on out. Check out Tex. Check us all out. Come to the conference. Gary has been posting the link for our conference, as you all well know about. And I appreciate you guys. I love y'all. And all I got to do is find the button to get the hell out of here. You guys have a great week. Again, for all you mothers, happy Mother's Day in advance. I already picked up my mom a dozen roses assorted. I gave them to her early today. Love you guys. And with that being said, BMR, I'm out.
This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks, with an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to Eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.